morning, Gabby.
Morning. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. What a book. The Midpoint Plan, taking charge of your health, habits and happiness to thrive in midlife and beyond. Gabby Logan, inspired by the Midpoint podcast. So you're 120 odd episodes into the Midpoint podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is awesome. And this book is like the greatest hits of your podcast.
It is, but I had to stop at some point because the publishers wanted to take it in. And of course, since then I've done another 30 episodes. And every time I interview somebody now, I think, oh, that would have been great on the section on sleep. And that would have been brilliant on the section on spirituality, it's divided up into topics as opposed to people, and then what I've tried to do is weave the wisdom of my guests through those topics.
And you do it very well. It's great. There's no fat in here. It's absolutely awesome. The chapters are brilliantly selected, and within the chapters there are different sections. There's the midpoint view, there's the midpoint plan. Let's go for some standouts. You know your book better than me. I've read it, but you wrote it. So
I think one of the things that people commonly talk about is sleep being a problem, for example. And so a lot of my guests have talked about that. Claudia Winkelmann's excellent on napping. And so the sleep experts, because this is the other thing the podcast has experts on, not just the kind of well-known people that you might recognise.
It's 50-50-ish, isn't it?
Yeah, and so those experts come up with strategies and ways of dealing with sleep issues. And the best ones, I think, have talked about moving your mindset from thinking, oh, God, I only got 2 hours sleep last night, so therefore I've got to try and catch up with it, and there's a bank. And actually, it's consistency. With most things in life, consistency is key.
The compound interest of consistency.
Consistency of wake-up time is the thing that they focus on now, the sleep clinicians. So don't worry if you don't get to bed till 1 a.m. If you're waking up every day at 6:30, your body will get you there, and it's fine. And I think it's mentally telling yourself that and believing that has helped a lot of people in terms of their sleep hygiene. Don't you love these terms?
Yeah.
But I think sleep is something that a lot of my guests have talked about. Alcohol is a big one as well. I know you've had Andy Ramage on, and he came on the Midpoint too. And you have extremes, obviously, of some people are dealing with serious issues in their life with alcohol, but it seems in midlife it's a point where people want to address those unhealthy habits, and alcohol is one of those that really does rear its head because people are able to drink more because they've been drinking for longer. So they kind of go, well, I don't feel anything, but actually maybe you do, but you're not realising it because it's there all the time.
Yeah, or you're in denial. Of course, you say the opposite in your book, because you talk about you suddenly realised one day a glass of white wine wasn't worth it, and you began to have the hangover before you even went to bed that night.
And not understanding that this was actually a physiological thing, not just a psychological thing, because our bodies process alcohol differently because of the enzymes and the hormone changes. And that's not to say I haven't stopped drinking completely, but I can't drink things that I used to drink and enjoy them.
When you say I can't drink, it's like I can't run 20 miles. It's not. You don't have to try to drink, do you?
Yes, exactly. I'm not going to go. Well, I wish I could get back that youth and vitality I had when I was.
I mean, training to drink loads at Christmas, which it felt like sometimes, didn't it?
Yeah, especially in November and some of those events that we hosted.
Well, also, you get dry January. It's like you're giving yourself a month off so you can start drinking again. I mean, that's just very counterintuitive if you really zoom out.
It's all mindset, isn't it? It's changing that mindset and realising as well, nearly every single health expert, whatever they're talking about, whether it's nutrition or various diseases and illnesses, will tell you that alcohol is one of the factors linked to those things. And if you're into what you are, extreme running and marathons and running, or if you're doing, I like to do a variety of different things, those things will go better for you if you're living a healthier life.
Honestly, I mean, I haven't had a drink now for nearly 400 days, and it's like, it's the one thing. It's the one thing that has given me a bigger advantage and benefit in my life to do with my well-being than I've ever done before. And if you bear in mind all the effort that I put in doing other things, all I had to do was stop doing something, and it's been more beneficial to me having started and carried on doing all these other things. It's quite incredible, especially sleep. It's really helped me with my sleep, not drinking. Also, eating less has helped me with my sleep, because I'm a 1 meal a day person at the moment, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I can eat what I want. I woke up once last night. Vassos, you know me in my sleep.
Yeah, it's usually
10 times, 8 times.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks down to one time a night now. And we know the sleep is the foundation of everything. It's really important. But you even talk about like financial planning in your book.
Well, because I think, and that only came to me kind of a little bit later on, and maybe I've done 30, 40 episodes, like thinking everybody's experiences in midlife financially are so different. You'd like to think you've got to a point where you're sorted in terms of your career and but actually we've all got to face up to portfolio careers and career changes in our lives, I think, now, because of things like AI and other technological advances that mean mean that people don't have jobs for life anymore. And people don't go into a job at 18 and come out at 65.
Nor do they want to.
No, and they want variety, and they're going to have to face up to probably working longer as well. The pension age is going to keep probably shifting back. And so how you approach your finances, I think most of my friends are like me, that, you know, when you first start out, all the big adults in your life tell you, start a pension. And of course you say, no, I want to go on holiday. Yeah, exactly. Or I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to do...
pension just sounds old.
I know.
It's a rubbish word, isn't it?
Well, Claire Barrett, who you may know is a financial expert, has come on a couple of times, and you know, she's one of those people that just speaks so much sense, and as a lot of the experts do, tell you now is not too late. Start now.
No, it's never too late.
And obviously, great. I've got an 18-year-old who started work last year, and I did try and persuade him that it'd be a good idea to start a pension. Of course, he hasn't. And then he came back from work one day and said, "We had a talk today, Mum. Do you know if I did a compound pension?" I was going, "Whoa!" Yeah. So you know, it is about kind of facing up to financial realities, I guess, and thinking, well, can I really just rely on selling my house and downsizing? Or am I going to have to think about something a little bit more solid? And it is never too late.
And it's very handy to have a podcast discussing all these things if you're of a certain age, because not only do you get this free consultancy, but they come to you.
I know.
The greatest experts in the world
and
come.
I get books sent all the time. It's brilliant. I love it. I've got this kind of fantastic reference library of all these amazing experts who specialise in so many of these areas.
Yeah.
And you know, and I only want people who are real brilliant experts entrenched in those fields. You know?
We get paid to get advice.
Well, that's the motivation for the book. I kind of felt, well, I'm getting all this advice and getting all this wisdom, and I want to put it into something that is a comfort blanket of midlife. You know?
The Midpoint Plan, taking charge of your health, habits and happiness to thrive in midlife and beyond. Gabby Logan, the book is out now, inspired by the Midpoint podcast. So the chapters are mental performance, midlife crises, mental health, fitness, nutrition, aging and beauty, sleep, illness, hormones, alcohol, style, love and sex, family, friends.
That was, by the way, that chapter when I was doing the audiobook, I embarrassed myself reading it out because I've been quite candid.
What a sell for the audiobook. People are now like scrabbling to get online. Where do I get the audiobook?
The guy who was, you know, doing the mixing of the audiobook, I kept looking up at him going, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm saying these things in front of you. I've never met you before.
It's like when you film your first nude scene, isn't it, Basil? Right, friends, loss, work and money, and epilogue, life is beautiful. Tell us about Sniper's Alley.
Well, Sniper Alley apparently starts in your early 50s to 50s. So a friend of mine, the anecdote in the book, which is where I kind of launch into talking about it, a friend of ours was relaying that a mutual friend had a diagnosis of cancer. And he said to me, well, this is it, Sniper Alley. And I said, sorry. He said, yeah, 50 to 60. This is the period where so many diseases and illnesses
Come and have a go.
And you're literally running through an alley trying to dodge them all.
Yeah.
And it happened, like within a few years. Quite a few good friends had cancer diagnosis. Some came through, some didn't. Other diseases and illnesses. My own husband got prostate cancer at the age of 50, and I thought this is a real thing. And the premise is that if you get to 60, kind of in good nick, then you've got more chance of getting to 80. Mm-hmm. But it's this period of life now.
You have to weather the storm.
You have to go through the storm, and I think partly because we didn't live much beyond 50, right? With our way back ancestors, because obviously we weren't able to get the healthcare, and the kind of lifestyle hacks that we know now are really important. So it's understandable and slightly explainable. And of course, with female health, there's the menopause, which the drop off of hormones can affect so many other parts of the body. So understanding that you can get through that decade with, I suppose, awareness, knowing what you need to check out, and don't worry if you feel something that's not quite right, go to a doctor. Don't think this is normal. So
detection.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, tell us about what happened with Kenny then, because he sort of demanded, it's my turn now. I need an MOT. Just tell us that story, because he found his cancer by accident.
Yeah, he'd listened to one of the episodes. He'd gone for a dog walk, listened to Davina McCall's episode, and Davina, obviously, as you know, talks brilliantly about menopause.
Pause. Can we just have a round of applause, please, for Davina McCall? Because she's amazing. She's not here, but she's amazing. Sorry. Please forgive me, Gabby.
Baroness Davina McCall talks about the menopause a lot publicly. As you know, she's done brilliant documentaries. And so she came on and talked about her HRT and how that affected various things, including libido. So Kenny came into my office. I was working at home, and he went, I've just listened to Davina's episode. What happens to me with my hormones? And in this kind of, as if I was the oracle, I said, look, men's hormones do change, but not quite the same rate as women. And he said, but do you think my testosterone's okay? I said, Kenny, I know I can give you a few answers, but I'm not a doctor. doctor. I can't just do that by taking your pulse, So I said, just go and get yourself sorted. Go to a doctor. And, anyway, he's quite good at that because of being a sportsman. He doesn't mind people, kind of having a prod and a poke. So he goes off to a male health kind of clinic and gets some blood tests. And when he went to get the results, they said, your testosterone's fine, mate, but your PSA's high. And he said, what is a PSA? I have no idea what this is. And that is the indicator often that there may be something wrong with your prostate and it may be enlarged. And after 6 months of more invasive tests, he basically was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
So what happened next?
Well, he had no symptoms, Chris, right? So it was purely going to have those hormone tests. Ultimately, he had his prostate removed because that was decided the best course of treatment for him. Because he caught it so early, it hadn't spread anywhere. And that's the danger with prostate cancer, is that if you wait too long and you have symptoms, it may go to other parts of the body. So he was incredibly lucky, and because of that, he said to me, when I come through this and I've had the prostate removed and I feel better, I really want to do something about it on the podcast. So all the while through that, we had little conversations the night before he went to hospital, when he got his diagnosis, which we then put into an episode, and it's one of the most downloaded, and doctors always recommend it.
Which episode is that? What's it called?
It's called the prostate episode.
Brilliant.
And it's Kenny and I talking frankly about what was going to happen, because there is a big risk of functionality and not being there.
You can talk about it on the show.
Yeah, so erectile function can be massively affected, and it might not come back. Kenny was very lucky, and eventually it did. But
took a while. You saying?
Yeah, it took a while. His wife wasn't as patient as she might have been.
Slow and steady.
And he was kind of like going, because it's very. And I think the reason why I wanted to talk about it candidly was because, of course, if you've been together with somebody for a long time and that's a big part of your relationship, then it is something that is going to affect the dynamics.
It's significant.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm trying not to use the wrong words. It's huge. and he was obviously wanting us to be the couple that we were before, and obviously was facing up to this potential kind of huge physical change. And so and a lot of men in this period of life have to go through that. So and it is and it can be affected, of course, functionality through other diseases and illnesses in midlife. So
nothing to fear here, though, is there?
No,
I mean, it doesn't mean it's not fearful. There's just nothing to fear. I mean, it's the story we tell ourselves, as all our lives are.
And I want it to be really positive, Chris, because there's so many great things that can happen.
It's the most positive book.
Yeah, and it's a really great period of life in lots of ways.
Your podcast is amazing. I mean, it is
Chris,
amazing.
Thank you.
I must listen to it more. I do listen to it, but not as much as I listen to some. I don't know why. I listen to American podcasts for some reason. I just like the rhythm of their voices.
Do you want me to start speaking American?
Yeah, that would help. Give it a go. The American episode.
We had Leanne Rhymes on. She's got an American accent, so I'm trying to get more Americans on.
She definitely has got an American accent. She's allowed to. No, but it's great, the Midpoint Plan. Taking charge of your health, habits and happiness to thrive in midlife and beyond. Now, one of the other things you look at, well, many things you look at, one of the things included is the fact that regardless of where you are and who you're around and who you've been with for a while, if you're in your 50s, 40s, 60s or whatever, it's never too late to actually surrender to the situation and say, do you know what? We're probably better off apart than together. And again, you had personal experience of this.
Yeah, and it's kind of repotting in some ways. There's a brilliant expert who's come on to talk about that, Frances, who talks about repotting yourself career-wise, but actually her repotting, as she called it. And this phrase came from her watching a gardening show, and there was this plant that just would not grow and had stopped any kind of signs of life. And the experts on the show said, all it needs to do is be repotted. And she looked at it and thought, this is me. I've got to repot myself. I've got to repot myself in her relationship. She realised that had died, and she had to go and look at her career, and she did some more training. She went to Stanford and kind of did a bit of a growth in her mindset. And it's something that I think both sides might feel the same and are scared to have a conversation, or it might be that one person is going to have to repot themselves in a slightly different way. And I've got friends who've in midlife their relationships are broken up, others who've been through big challenges and stayed together, and you see how sometimes it's for the best, isn't it, for everybody, and it's not. I hate this idea that it's failure. Like my mum always says about my parents are divorced, and that was kind of my
later in life.
Yeah, later in life, and that was my kind of close-up example of this. And I was 30 the day that they officially separated and went their separate ways.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And I saw, that was going to be better for both people in that situation. Obviously, we were slightly older as kids, so we weren't going to be custody battles or anything like that. But obviously, that can be a problem for families in terms of thinking that they have to get to the end of somewhere with kids, you know, and then they want to move on. And all of those situations, I think, should not be looked at always as failures. Like with my mum, she always says, I had a really successful 28 years or however long it was, but then it didn't work.
Well, yeah, if you do something for a living and you stop doing it, it doesn't mean that while you were doing it, you weren't really good at it.
No.
It's completely fine. It's all completely fine,
I think we have this such binary view, don't we, of success and failure in society as well.
It's unhelpful.
No.
So you're back to playing golf.
Yeah. And Kenny made sure of that by getting me a new set of clubs for my 50th, which was quite a bit of pressure then, you know, because I had them kitted out for me. And he knows exactly what he's doing.
He was pushing against a door that was already very much open or willing to be open.
And I'm glad
further.
that I'm back in the game.
Tell us about when you had that meltdown, when you threatened to move out. You threatened to divorce all your family.
Everybody, the whole family. This is when I started, unbeknown to me, what I was going through was some perimenopausal symptoms, and where I just go from 0 to 10 really quickly and irrationally about things. And one Sunday morning, I came downstairs, there were too many pots left out. Teenagers had kind of taken all the cups upstairs, and there were various other things domestically that I was dissatisfied with. Instead of just getting everybody to do their chores, I just had a meltdown, sat everybody down at the table, told them that I'd been looking for a flat in a nearby town to rent.
And this was serious?
Well, I hadn't. I'd never looked at anything.
No, but it was serious.
Yeah, and to the point where, you know, shamefully, the kids were kind of like close to tears because this had come from nowhere. And Kenny was looking at me going, okay, this is not the woman that I know most of the time. What's going on? And everybody went off for their separate ways that day. And kind of Lois was doing some sport and Kenny had taken her there. And then in the evening, I just thought, this is not right. I don't feel good about this. I've not made anybody happy, least of all me. I wasn't happy with the situation. I certainly wasn't going to move out. You know, I was trying to get a reaction. And
this is so un-Gabby, even from what I know.
I know. And I just thought, oh, this is not, I don't like this. I don't want to turn into some angry old person that is, you know, I want to be as positive and as upbeat and, you know, and feel kind of as hopeful as I always have. So it was really when I started to work out through conversations on the Midpoint that some of these symptoms were to do with my changing hormones. I was like, hallelujah, this is not how I have to be. And I think that is a lot of what happens in midlife, especially with the hormonal changes. You don't have to stay that way. You know, you can do something about it.
Why have I connected that with golf? Is the golf story quite near to that in the book? I don't know. I think the golf thing comes quite soon after that.
Well, I talk about hobbies in the book, and that's where golf comes in, because like my kids are 18 and 19 this month, and so we're getting a lot more free time than we ever had to do stuff together. And even if you're not still in a relationship with your kids' parents, kids' partner, you might find that your life has a bit more time, and having your hobbies there is helpful. So I kind of saw this coming on the runway and started to engineer my hobbies again. Like this week I did, one of my friends is an artist, we did a painting party last night, playing paddle with a different group of girlfriends tonight. Monday night we had book club. Now these are all things that only
come... Sounds like you're on holiday.
I know! These are all things that have come back to my life in the last few years, because I don't want to sit in every night and watch a box set.
Watch anything.
Well, in the old days with kids, you know, your life was predicated, you know, with 5 o'clock tea time, or you know, all those kind of beats in the day that kids need. And you know, I don't feed my kids anymore.
Yeah.
They feed themselves, or they join in if we're having a family dinner. But if they're off doing their thing, we're not always around at the same time, and they're leaving home. So yeah, hobbies are us.
How is the golf?
Oh, it's as bad as it ever was. But
I thought you were quite handy.
Well, at one point I could hit a ball, and now I'm changing my grip. Change your grip.
Change your grip
is not So paddle gives me more joy.
And if you can't change your grip, here's the thing: loosen your grip, because everybody holds their clubs too tightly.
Is that a thing?
100%, yeah. So if you're holding a tube of toothpaste, imagine you're holding a tube of toothpaste that's full. So a brand new tube of toothpaste, you've opened it at one end, and hold it. And begin to squeeze it and stop squeezing just before any toothpaste comes out. That's how firmly you should hold your golf club.
Really good way of working your pressure out, actually.
Yeah. Do you know who told me that?
Arnold Palmer.
Colin Montgomery.
Well, pretty much.
So I'm going to take it. That didn't come from me. It came from me.
Well, mine was involved, not the pressure, but was turning, making sure I was turning the wrist because it was getting too open.
Oh, we're getting very golfy.
Yeah, we are. We're getting very golfy. Yeah. But I love the gear. The
how
golf
involved
gear.
have you been with the Euros?
I was in Berlin for 2 weeks.
I thought I saw you there.
I did a load of group games and then came home before the knockout stages because, well, divide it with
I would
ITV.
imagine.
Well, we divide it with ITV, right? And there's a few of us presenting out there. We've got Chappers, and we've got Gary, obviously, and Alex Scott.
Is Gary
and
Lineker still on the telly?
Yes,
You
he's
don't
still on
hear
the
about
telly,
that much anymore.
So he's doing the rest of it effectively because we've only got 2 games in the quarters, 1 game in the semi, and then the final, obviously. So
that's England. We got 2 games. We got 1 game in the quarters, 1 in the semi, and 1 in. Right, good. Gabby Logan. Look, stuff coming in for Gabby already. Tracy from Wandsworth, my husband had the exact same operation as Kenny, and that episode was hugely helpful. Thank you so much, Gabby.
Thank you,
What
Tracy.
about that?
That's amazing. And honestly, when people contact us, and Kenny gets it a lot, it means so much because that's why he wanted to do it. So thank you.
Mo says, every time I watch or listen to Gabby, I like her even more. A great topic and a sensible, humorous chat with information.
Thank you so much. Well, hopefully that sums up the book.
Yeah, and hopefully you didn't start at like the basement of liking Gabby. You liked her anyway. Ground floor minimum.
Yes.
Now we're heading towards the penthouse. Give us some more. We got another minute or so.
Brilliant.
Give us
Okay.
some more headlines from the book. What else would you like people to know? The Midpoint Plan, taking charge of your health, habits and happiness to thrive in midlife and beyond. Gabby Logan. It's like the greatest hits of her podcast, and it's also like the greatest hits of this show, and it's all the better for it.
And the end of every chapter, I try to put a few points that you could start. So if this is something that you want to make a change in your life, these are the few things that we're recommending from the experts. I hate the idea that I'm not suggesting this. And what I do as well is I give about 1,500 words at the beginning of every chapter of my experience of that. Yeah. So, well, that's the thing about writing a book like this. You can't just meander in the way you would a memoir. You have to have something that is a structure. Yeah. This was a whole academic exercise. It took me right back to being at university or something, kind of writing it in a style rather than me just going, one day I was a gymnast. Yes. So I've tried to give a plan. That's why it's called the Midpoint Plan, so that you can say, right, the thing about exercise, can I just say that one thing? Every expert who's come on with fitness, it is never too late to start. Don't think to yourself, well, I hated PE at school, haven't done anything for 25 years. Move. Couch to 5K, anything, walk. But exercise is the thing that is going to help you have a longer, healthier life.
Well, beyond that, what you actually say in the book is, it's not as important as ever. It's more important than ever.
And the intensity.
And keep moving and keep exercising. And speaking to that very point, I exercise a lot nowadays, more than I have done for years and years and years. I used to be really fit when I was younger. When I was on like the big breakfast and stuff, I was fit. I used to go to the gym every day and all this kind of stuff. And I could run really quickly, and I play football every Sunday. I play golf in between and ping pong and all this kind of stuff. But I get home every day from the show. I drive 30 miles. I run 4 miles to the car, and then I drive from Baker Street back to Marlow, about 30 miles, right? And when I get out of the car, I ache, and I do exercise. And all I think every day is, gosh, how much would I ache if I didn't do exercise? And, at the beginning I thought, I'm exercising too much, I ache too much. They went, no, you would ache so much more. Do you ache?
Only if I do something new, but I quite like that tweak. So when I was in Berlin, there was a Barry's boot camp just down the road from my.
I love Barry's boot camp.
And I did one every day. And the next day I was a bit tweaking, and I had that psychological. There was a little voice in my head going, "Don't do this every day. Look after yourself." No, I'm doing this every day because I want to feel at the end of it that I see some gains from the fit doing something different. And I did have a little tweak, and kind of my muscles was feeling a bit sore, but I quite liked that.
So you don't get out of the car after a long drive and your hammies are hurting?
No, not
because that's coming your way.
But I did a half marathon for the first time in ages this year, and I did start to get a bit of sciatica on my hamstring.
So with respect, so the two responses you've given me there are, I ache, yes, in brackets, after exercise. I'm talking about just aching.
I'm just no.
So I just ache now in life. You ache.
Yeah.
And it happens to everyone.
Yeah. I don't yet.
You've got to guard against it.
I'm hoping not to.
You've got to stretch, but of course you can't overstretch people. Sometimes stretching a muscle is the worst thing you can do. And they say no pain, no gain. That is absolute BS. No brain, no gain. If you have pain and you push through it, then that is wrong, because that pain is going to come back and get you. Yeah. And so what happens when you stretch something and it's hurt, if you hurt like during a marathon or something and you stretch your calf or you stretch your hamstring, you feel relief, but only because the muscle has changed its emotion briefly, temporarily, but it will go back to where it was in the first place because you haven't attacked the source, you've just attacked the symptom, and the symptom's going to be more painful to scream at you, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, agreed. I was really lucky. I once talked to someone called Paul Holbrook, who's like the world expert in stretching for running.
Team GB.
Yeah, and he's written a book, and I was writing a book, and he gave me basically an hour and a half personal one-to-one how to stretch. If you stretch like this, you will run faster, and you will never be injured.
Wow.
And that was maybe 5-6 years ago, and the amount of times, and it was really easy, by the way, and the amount of times I've done what he said since then is zero, because I'm an idiot.
There was an athlete called... So you've not run faster and you've ate.
Punchline.
Yeah, that was a good punchline. And why? Why have you not done that, Vassos?
Don't know.
Time.
Yeah,
You think, oh,
I'm just going to start my run.
Yeah.
And I'll finish my run.
Because it's uncomfortable, because it's different, because it's not what you're used to doing. You know, you can stretch, but most people overstretch. If it feels hard, it's probably wrong.
Yeah, I had this tweak happening, and there's an athlete called Jackie Agupong. She's similar age to me.
Well,
and
Gabby's a proper athlete. She was a top flight gymnast.
And she gave me a bit of treatment, and she said, these are the stretches you've got to do. And she was absolutely, same with Paul, she was absolutely right. And it involved lying on my front and stretching my psoas, and went out for that next run. Oh, I can't feel that pain anymore. But like you, occasionally I'll be about a kilometre in and go, oh, I didn't stretch. And then it's too late because I'm in a public street and people can see me and I feel a bit self-conscious, but actually you probably should just stop and do
a
it.
Little shout out to Helen Hall, who has been coaching me through various things, sending me various videos, who's just the most brilliant movement coach. She celebrated her 60th birthday by coming on this show. She looks 40. There you go, that's the only advert
do you know, the other thing as well we've all talked about is coaches and experts, and this is the thing I think we sometimes in life go through I've been doing it, I don't need anybody to tell me how to do it better. And actually I think teach me, tell me how to do it better.
If you want to learn to fly a helicopter, it's probably best to get some lessons. And why would it not be any different for any other walk of life? By the way, Tiger Woods has a coach. Lionel Messi has a coach.
And this applies as well, not just to sporting things we do in our lives, doesn't it? But life itself. You know, sometimes it's time to go and get a life coach and speak to somebody who might give you a plan of how to navigate that next period of life. And if you can't get that, there's a plan in the book. So you know, I think it is important that we do take advice from people who have had that experience.
This is one lovely episode on your podcast, and we're over time now, but there's one lovely episode on your podcast where you get a couple and one is the celeb and one is the expert. They just happen to be together.
Yeah, well, that would be...
Can't remember. What's that? That's it?
Yes, Gary and Emma Neville. Yes, because she has started a brilliant Instagram account to do with menopause. She's had really severe symptoms, early menopause as well. So she's really, really good. And Gary came on. I always wanted Gary to come on and he kept avoiding me. And then I saw that she was doing this.
You work together all the time,
so I said, well, we don't really work together. And I said to him, I see Emma's doing this brilliant thing about menopause. Why don't you come on together? And because he loves his wife and he was supporting her, he couldn't say no then.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about that episode, they had to record it because of technology in separate rooms in their house in Manchester. So I was in my studio, they were in theirs, each room. So they couldn't nudge each other like you would with your partner and go, shh, don't tell them that, don't tell them that. And she was so candid and brilliant. And this is like Gary Neville was put in his place in the way Roy Keane can't. You know, I loved it. It was brilliant.
Love it. Yeah. Of course, Gary could have come on for the financial advice because he's brilliant and all that, isn't he?
He's got so many businesses.
He has got it all going on. No wonder he's so chilled out and says what he thinks on the telly.
Sorry, my midlife brain fog just kicked in there and I couldn't remember. I did manage to list a few more episodes on the way, but you're a brilliant producer.
Don't get hung up on that. That's just it's cool. I like it. It's cool.
Thank you for having me.
Gabby, you're the best. You are literally the best. And you are also a great advert for the way you live your life. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
The Midpoint, taking charge of your health, habits and happiness to thrive in midlife and beyond. Gabby Logan. Also, the Midpoint podcast. This book is sort of a greatest hits, a harvesting of all the gold that's in there, and there's plenty of it to go around.
Thank you.
Cheers, Gabs.